Hi, Domenica here. I just thought I would make a video for my review of my sewing machine for the Sew Mama Sew blog, just to make it a little bit different. So in this review, I'm going to share with you the brand and model of my sewing machine, how much it costs me, what types of things I like to sew with it, how much I sew, whether I actually like the sewing machine or not, the different features that the sewing machine has, and if there's anything that drives me crazy about the sewing machine, whether I'd recommend this machine to other people, and maybe some things for people to consider if they're buying a new sewing machine. So let's get started. This is a Janome DC 4030, and I bought this sewing machine probably about 3 years ago and paid around $600, 600 Australian dollars for it. So I use this sewing machine a lot, and I mainly do crafty type sewing, so things for around the house, softies, toy making, a little bit of quilting here and there, and a little bit of garment making as well. So it gets used quite a lot, nearly every day. So it does have to do quite a lot of sewing. I love this machine. I wouldn't trade it for any other machine. I'm quite happy with everything that it does. I don't feel that it limits my imagination or creativity at all. And I might show you some of the features that it has, just so you can see what it's capable of. So I might switch that over here so you can see it a bit clearer. So we'll start here at the digital display. So you can change the width and the length of the stitch all at the press of a button. Has the different stitch selections down here, so it's quite easy to change it to a zigzag stitch, or you have your triple stitch, which is a stitch that you'd want to look for if you're buying a sewing machine. And one really handy stitch that it has here is I think it's called the Overcast Stitch, using the M foot. So you get that foot with the sewing machine, and this stitch is really handy for doing a like an overlock or a serger type stitch on the edge of your seam to stop your fabric from unraveling. So this would save you from having to buy an overlocker or a serger to use if you're making clothing. So definitely handy if you don't make clothing very often and just need it every now and then. Has a few decorative stitches to choose from and some buttonhole stitches there as well. If you come over here, you can't see it up the top, but there's another spot here for another spool pin, so you can use your double needle with this machine. You can change the speed of your sewing machine, so I find this quite helpful. I usually sew with it on a medium speed. That's what I feel most comfortable with. Has an automatic tension, and one of my most favourite features is inside here. This lever enables you to change the pressure of the presser foot. So if you're doing a bulkier project, say some quilting or softy making with lots of layers, you can decrease the pressure of the presser foot, and that will enable the fabric to go through a lot smoother. So that's very helpful. Down here you've got your needle up down button, so this enables you to start and stop your sewing with the needle in the down position. So good if you're doing a lot of pivoting or curves or things like that. I think this one's called a locking stitch. So instead of using a reverse stitch at the beginning and the end of a seam, you might do a locking stitch. It looks a lot tidier. I don't really use that very much. So I've got the reverse stitch here, or back stitch, if you want to call it that. Got the start stop button. So this actually enables you to use your sewing machine without having to use the foot pedal. So if you start your sewing, press the button, and when you want to stop, press it again, and it'll stop for you. Never really used that, but it's there if I need it. I've got my automatic needle threader, which I absolutely love. At the moment I've got my walking foot on my sewing machine. It's one of my favourite sewing machine feet to use. And this machine, I think if you shop around, you should be able to get this machine with a free walking foot and 1/4 inch foot. So it's definitely worth it. It has a top loading bobbin. So I like using machines with a top loading bobbin, mainly because you can see how much thread you've still got left on your bobbin. And they're just a bit easier to load as well, I find. So yeah, they're the main features of the Janome DC 4030. Now, would I recommend this sewing machine to others? Yes, I would definitely recommend this sewing machine to others. I think it's simple enough to use for a beginning sewer and also capable of doing so much more. So if you're an experienced sewer, I think it would suit you as well. What else was I going to say? Yeah, if you're willing to pay a little bit more for a sewing machine, then it's definitely worth doing it. And even if you're a beginner, I would say it's better to pay a little bit more and get a sewing machine that will be able to grow with you when you learn to do a little bit more with your sewing. But if you think you're just going to do a little bit of sewing here and there in terms of hemming pants or making a little project every now and then, it's probably not worth spending all that money on a sewing machine like this. So yeah, if you are considering buying a sewing machine, I would take some of those factors that I just said into consideration. So like the amount of time you might spend sewing, how much you're going to use the sewing machine, what types of features you're looking for in terms of like what are you going to be sewing with it. So if you are going to be doing some garment making, this machine might be a consideration because you can do the Overcast Stitch, or it's good for if you're doing quilting as well or making making softies. So yeah, definitely a fantastic sewing machine that I would recommend to anyone. If I had to change anything on the machine, I'd probably like to have an automatic thread cutter on the machine. So that's probably just a nitpicky thing, but yeah, if I did get a sewing machine, that's one feature that I would look for, but it's completely unnecessary. You don't really need it. And the only thing that annoys me a little bit about this sewing machine is the locking stitch. If you accidentally press it, then you can't turn it off, and you just need to keep going till it's finished its locking stitch. So that's a little bit annoying, but it doesn't happen very often, and it doesn't affect the sewing and the look of the thing that you're sewing too much as well. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this review and you found it useful. Hit the thumbs up button or leave a comment below if you have anything to say. Thanks for watching.